Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was dearly loved by her mother, and even more so by her grandmother. For her birthday, her grandmother gave her a red riding hood. From that day on, the little girl wore it everywhere she went, and soon the neighbors started calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother baked a pie and said to her daughter, "Take this pie and a pot of butter to your grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood. Go and see how she's feeling." Little Red Riding Hood got ready and set off to her grandmother's house. As she was walking through the forest, she met a gray wolf. "Where are you going, Little Red Riding Hood?" asked the wolf. "I'm going to my grandmother's house to bring her a pie and a pot of butter," she replied. "And where does your grandmother live?" the wolf inquired. "Far away," answered Little Red Riding Hood. "In the village behind the mill, in the first house on the edge." "All right," said the wolf. "I'd like to visit your grandmother too. I'll take this road and you take that one. Let's see who gets there first." With that, the wolf sprinted down the shortest path. Little Red Riding Hood, on the other hand, took the longer path. She walked slowly, stopping along the way to pick flowers and make bouquets. She hadn't even reached the mill when the wolf had already arrived at the grandmother's house. He knocked on the door. "Knock, knock! Who is it?" asked the grandmother. "It's me, your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf replied. "I've come to visit you, bringing a pie and a pot of butter." Now, the grandmother was ill and bedridden at the time. Thinking it was indeed her granddaughter, she called out, "Pull the string, my child, and the door will open." The wolf pulled the string, and the door swung open. He pounced on the grandmother and swallowed her whole in one gulp. The wolf was very hungry, having not eaten for 3 days. Afterward, he closed the door, laid down in the grandmother's bed, and waited for Little Red Riding Hood. Before long, she arrived and knocked on the door. "Knock, knock! Who is it?" asked the wolf, his voice rough and gruff. Little Red Riding Hood was startled by the voice, but then thought that her grandmother must have a cold, so she answered, "It's me, your granddaughter. I've brought you a pie and a pot of butter." The wolf cleared his throat and replied in a softer tone, "Pull the string, my child, and the door will open." Little Red Riding Hood pulled the string, and the door opened. She entered the house, where the wolf was hiding under the covers, and he said, "Put the pie on the table, set the pot on the shelf, and come lie down next to me." Little Red Riding Hood did as she was told, and then lay down beside the wolf. She asked, "Grandmother, why are your arms so big?" "To hug you tighter, my dear," replied the wolf. "Grandmother, why are your ears so big?" "To hear you better, my dear." "Grandmother, why are your eyes so big?" "To see you better, my dear." "Grandmother, why are your teeth so big?" "To eat you faster, my dear," the wolf exclaimed. Before Little Red Riding Hood could scream, the wolf leaped at her and swallowed her whole. But fortunately, some woodcutters were passing by the house at that very moment. Hearing the commotion inside, they rushed into the house and killed the wolf. Then they cut open his belly, and out came Little Red Riding Hood, followed by her grandmother, both unharmed and safe,